This episode is brought to you by the European Coworking Assembly. We are everything Coworking Europe. If you head to the Coworking Assembly website, you can connect with our World Coworking, European Freelancers Week, Coworking Symposium, Coworking Library, and Coworking Tools.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another Co-working Values podcast. And it's that time of year again. It is the Global Coworking Survey. And I've got Joe from the team flown into the studio, our luxury Spanish studio, to tell us what's going on this year. So, Joe, for the two people in co-working that don't know you, what are you known for and what would you like to be known for?
Hi, Bernie. Thanks. First of all, thanks for inviting me, for having me. Well, you might know me from the Co-working Library project, which is an online database about co-working research, one of my passion projects. I'm also involved in the German Co-working Federation and the European Co-working Assembly, as well as in a not so small project here in my hometown in Halle in Germany, where I'm rebuilding an old brewery. And last but not least, I'm also supporting the Global Coworking Survey this year again.
I like the way you said, I'm rebuilding an old brewery, like with my bare hands. That is...
Well, we actually do that in the sense of that we meet in monthly or now even weekly meetups and rebuild parts of the structure with clay and work with our own hands. Yes.
And so it's like a 3-year restoration project of a brewery. What year was the brewery built?
300 years ago. So we are not going to take 300 more years, but the idea is that it will be there for a long time.
And it's in the center of town. It will have a co-working space. Is that right?
Exactly. It will include a co-working space, but rather function as a third place to really generate meaningful meetings and relationships with the people who meet there.
You know, there's other brands, co-working brands that boast a beer in their co-working space, but I feel yours takes it to a whole new level. I'm never sure how to do this. Like, the Global Coworking Survey, how long has it been going now? 10 years?
Yes, more than 10 years, actually. We took a little bit of a break in between the pandemic. You might remember that. But now we are back, and it's really the longest running co-working survey that has been around on a global basis. So it's quite special. And I believe the Global Coworking the Global Coworking Survey has quite a high standing. I see lots of co-working research papers being published that draw their numbers from the survey. So it's a really cool thing that it's starting again on the global sphere or on the global scale now again.
So, and then Carsten, a lot of you folks that go to conferences will see every year at GC and what's that other one called? Co-working Europe. The main thing that fills the hall on the first day is Carsten delivering the results of the Global Co-working Survey. And I remember the first time I ever saw it must have been 2014 or 2015, either in Milan or Lisbon. And it was the first time I'd seen that much data presented presented about what was going on. And for me, that made me feel like, this co-working thing is deadly serious now. It's not some friends gathering around a table with their laptops. There's data and everything. So
yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, that it actually happened simultaneously in different parts of the world. I mean, we always say, it started in San Francisco, but that there is something about this working together without actually being part of the same organization. And it's super interesting to see the co-working movement grow. And Carsten is a frequent speaker on all those different conferences. And we're really hoping to present some interesting results with the new survey.
So who is this directed at?
Well, basically everybody, as everyone can take the survey and it will lead you through the different paths of the survey. So regardless if you are a co-working member, a co-working space operator, if you have previously owned a co-working space, or if you want to open one in the future, the survey offers the right path for you. And for me personally, I'm really super interested in the stories of the co-working operators who might have to shut down their space, because those are the stories that we rarely hear about, and where we don't really find out why the space is really closed down. I mean, it's easy to say, it's because of economic reasons due to the pandemic, but I'm sure there are a few more reasons here, and the survey is one tool to find out more about that. So basically, anyone can take the survey.
Yeah, I get a little tired of hearing that XXX brand is going to open 3,000 new spaces in the next 10 years and be worth 50 gazillion pounds, and then the real independent co-working spaces, like, they sort of don't get a look in. They don't get a look in at the top 3 results in Google that are paid for. There's a bit in here that you're collaborating with Ashley Proctor and the Idea Project to ask some inclusion and accessibility questions. Is that right?
Yes, that's a really nice collaboration. It's the first time that we included a set of questions that are directed at the topic of diversity and inclusion. So for that, we've been working closely together with the co-working IDEA project, where I'm also personally involved in, and it will be quite interesting to draw some numbers out of that. Then again, there are also, for that survey part, there's also the option to tell us a little bit more in a free field where you can fill in your thoughts on the status quo of diversity and inclusion in co-working, which we are really super interested in.
Well, I mean, obviously that is important, but why is that important? Can you just spell it out for our listeners about the idea and survey and co-working?
Yeah, I mean, the co-working scene, the co-working movement, as I would rather see it, it's evolving, and things are changing, and we have to ask again and again, who is not in our spaces? Why are they not here? Who cannot participate of this new culture in working differently? And that's why we need data on that to also see maybe if projects like the Co-working Idea Project do have an impact, if something changes. And that is the best way to do it is by looking at the numbers and how things are increasing or decreasing, how maybe spaces become more accessible for folks who may previously not have been able to go to the space, and to track that is one of the ideas behind the Global Coworking Survey this year.
Yeah, I was really over the moon when I saw that, because I think there's white men like me that will enthusiastically read data reports, and when they see that in a data report, it might prod them a little bit to take some action in that area. Because there's at the Co-working Alliance Summit, one of the key topics that came up in all the areas I was about how co-working conferences are still full of people like me, like lots of white men talking about the future of work as if it doesn't include anyone else. And I'm sure, very few people are deliberately intending it to go that way, but it's really important that I'm lucky because I see myself in nearly every aspect of the future of work where I look, but I know lots of people don't. So where is the other bit that I always think is important with this survey is it says, are you a member? So it's not just operators filling it in, it's members and people that work in the place. And I feel that every year people think it's like for operators to fill in, but can you explain the membership part is very important too?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's about people who use a co-working space or also who have been using one before or who plan on using one. So basically, you will have different questions depending on what your answer would be to the member status, I would say. And it's quite important to get that data as well, because I mean the operator perspective is one point of view, but of course we also want to hear from the members and see their perspective. And that's why we really encourage all space operators to not only take the survey themselves, but also to distribute it maybe through their member newsletter, their Slack channels, their internal communication tools to their members. And there's a really cool benefit for doing that. Then you can become an official supporter of the co-working survey, and you also get your logo on all the results. The PDFs that will be published after the results are coming in. And I think that is a really cool benefit for each and every space or co-working alliance, co-working organization. So we highly encourage them to go to globalcoworkingsurvey.com to find out more and to share the survey with their members or networks. There are quite a few materials that we provide for that. There are pre-made Canva templates, for example, where you can just drop in your logo and then distribute that through your channels. So we try to make it quite easy to share the message and to get the survey to as many people as possible.
That's very nice having the Canva thing, because you can that will speed up. I would fret for hours over how to present it properly, but send me a Canva template and I'm away. I just wondered briefly there if you wanted to talk about different available communication tools, or do you want to move on quickly? I know you like the communication tool chat.
I'm a little bit lost here. What do you mean?
No, we always talk about which is the best channel, like Slack, WhatsApp, and every 6 months we have a conversation in the European Co-working Assembly about how to communicate. Can you say the other bit is? Did you want to say something there? Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's really very different for each and every community. And, I'm involved in the German co-working federation, and we have our Slack channel, but we realize, okay, we don't reach everybody. I think the best way to do is have the really crucial information be sent out with a newsletter. That's also why this is one requirement for becoming an official supporter of the Global Coworking Survey, that you send out a newsletter to your network, to your members. And by forwarding us the newsletter, we can then mark you on our list as an official supporter and include the logo and a link in all the publication materials afterwards. So that's the idea behind the supporters of the survey.
That's really. I didn't know that's how it worked. That's really smart. Can you say a bit about the anonymity, because that's crucial. That's correct. That's something I'd be like, oh, are they going to check my answers and hate me for saying that's bad? And then there's how it reflects in the actual results of the survey.
Nope. That's a major part of this survey. We do not, obviously we want to know from which country you come to sort of also see whether it makes sense to maybe publish even country reports for individual countries. But other than that, we don't ask you for any personal information. We will not collect the name of your space or your personal name or address or anything like that. And that is because we want the survey to really reflect the reality. We want to avoid the socially desirable answers, I would say, because we want to hear the good and the bad. To really see that you give honest answers on your status quo. Because even though, the co-working world seems to be very shiny and everything, the whole discourse around new work is very, there are really cool pictures and everybody is happy all the time. And hey, thank God it's Monday.
It's like
But
the Lego movie.
maybe that's not always the case. I mean, some things are not running okay. And we want to hear about the good and the bad sides of co-working. So that's why we don't ask you for any personal information. So none of your answers can be traced back to you. We use, however, I think it's just one cookie within the survey. So when you start the survey and you want to stop in between, you can just close your browser, but go later on back, and you don't have to start from the beginning of the survey again, but the cookie will sort of tell you, okay, you've been at the second page of the survey, and then continue from there on. So you don't really have to do it all in one take, but I mean, it's about 10, 15 minutes of your time that are really, well invested for the global co-working sector.
So do you think, is what you're saying, Joe, like if I spend 15 minutes of my time, I can help change the world?
Definitely. And you can, of course. I mean, you can totally contribute to exciting co-working research. Not only is the data going to be used at or for articles at Deskmag, and then, of course, slides with the results. But I'm sure that we will see a lot of scientific research papers, maybe even books that will cite the numbers of the Global Coworking Survey, as I have done that in the past. So I believe the survey is really quite groundbreaking and important, as we have the data sets from the previous 10 years as well, and we can put those into perspective, and have this approach of really looking not all the way back to the beginning of co-working, but really seeing the progress of how it all evolved. And to have that data is quite cool.
So when it's all done and produced, is there like how do I get hold of it? Is there like a paid version and a free version, or do I have to work for an organization to get access to it? What's the end availability?
Yeah, the idea is that the main results will and have always been available as free articles on Deskmag. So I think in the show notes, we will also link to a link on Deskmag where you can see all the publications that have been published for free and will always stay free. And you can use those. But if you want to know more, there will be more in-depth reports that you can purchase afterwards as well. But again, the main results will always be free. And in those slides that are available, we also name all the supporters. So all official supporters, each and every space that has shared the co-working survey with their members gets a logo and a link within those PDFs, which I think it's pretty special. And it's amazing to see how many folks are already part of this. If you look at Deskmag right now, there's a rotating banner on the top of the page, and to see who else is already on board is quite amazing.
It's like a cult thing. The Global Coworking Survey. It's just to put you on the spot. What have you got from this survey? Is there anything over the years that's like influenced your own research or your own making a co-working space or something? How do you value this?
Well, I mean, the whole topic of inclusion and diversity is very dear to my heart. To really see that also being reflected in the survey is important. And then just to see the overall evolvement of spaces, how they grow, how when we were looking at the first co-working spaces, which were rather independent, operator-owned, how we are now looking at expansions, and people, or the last survey prior to the pandemic, it showed that so many people want to expand their existing spaces. To really have a follow-up on that outlook to see. So okay, let's do the reality check. What really happened here? That's something I'm super interested in. Then, of course, I wrote my master thesis. When was it? Like 2000. 11-ish, something like that, about co-working and childcare, and to see the development in that, if there are more spaces offering that. And since we are so involved, Bernie, you and I, we see a lot of spaces, we know a lot of people, but maybe we are also just in our little bubble, and to see the actual numbers being reflected in the survey, that's something I'm super interested in. But then again, we cannot reach any form of representation with the survey. It would be really cool to say, okay, we have the answers of every co-working space worldwide, but let's be honest, that's not going to happen. But we really, are looking for many voices from different cultures, different areas, continents even, to really see how co-working is evolving in different parts of the world, and to sort of also compare that.
Yeah, that finding out what's going on outside your bubble.
Yes.
Even when you read a lot of blogs and stuff on LinkedIn about co-working, but I'm always kind of following the people I know or my mates, and then when I see the data from the Global Coworking Survey, is I didn't realize that many co-working spaces with three-legged stools were opening across Eastern Europe or something. There's very specific things in there that are very, very interesting. I think actually, now I'm saying that out loud, that's one of the things that got me interested in the whole research group for collaborative spaces and the co-working library and Marco and all that stuff. Is until I got the co-working survey years ago, I didn't realize how layered co-working was. That this wildly fascinating. Is there any? Because sometimes this happens, even though I'm the master interviewer. Is there anything I didn't ask Joe that you want to make sure you?
Well, the most important thing is right after you finished listening to this podcast, to head over to coworkingsurvey.com and take the survey yourself. And if you are, involved in any form of co-working network or co-working space, please share it with other folks who can then participate as well. The survey will be open for a few more weeks, but we expect to publish the first results in the beginning of April, and then see where it takes us. So we are still gathering the voices of co-working at coworkingsurvey.com.
That was beautiful. That's the perfect place to finish what we've done here. And we'll put a link to your LinkedIn, Joe, so you can hunt Joe down and all her projects. And I think you are like one of the maybe not the backbone, but you're like a very major disc in the backbone of co-working, especially in Europe. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and attention today. Do go fill in the survey. It would just really help the movement, the industry, and the community, and getting more and more people into it every year is really important. And if you go to coworkingassembly.eu and hang around, there's the email there, and every week we email blogs and this podcast and other events that are going around. In fact, it's everything co-working Europe. Thanks very much. Take care and be careful out there. It is a jungle.
Thank you, Bernie.